Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 11. Make more money, let you put as much oil as you want. As soon as the rooster crowed, LIAN opened his eyes. The faint gleam of light and wind outside pushed in through the gaps in the thatched cottage. He soon sobered up and looked down at something warm within his arms. The young man curled up in his arms and was sleeping soundly. In the middle of the night, the young man felt cold and unconsciously squeezed his head under LIAN's right armpit. He took back his arm and tucked the young man nicely into the quilt before he dressed quietly, washed his face with cold well water in the courtyard and then went back to the thatched cottage to collect the prey in his bow set. Then he set out in the dim morning light. The town was not close by and it's going to take more than an hour to walk across the mountain. If he left early, he could arrive as soon as the market opened. At that time, it would be the most bustling time. The people who were in charge of purchasing from well-to-do families chose to come out at this time, so he could sell the prey sooner. Not far out, several people from the same village came from another direction, each carrying a shoulder pole which was already bent by pressure. Tai Sui. One of them was Zhang Dashuan. Zhang Xiang. LIAN greeted without saying a word more. Zhang Dawan knew his character, so he didn't mind and smiled as he nodded. A man who looked to be about in his 30s came to LIAN's side. Tai Sui, how is your newlywed life? Is the wifey cuddly? Dashan. Zhang Dashuan's facial expression changed slightly as he frowned at him. Is there anything wrong in that question? Another man, a bit younger and looked to be in his mid-20s, laughed and bumped against Zhang Dashuan's shoulder pole with his shoulder pole. Zhang Xiang, aren't you curious? Shen Xiang, too. One can see at first glance that Tai Sui's wife isn't nice to touch, you don't need to ask more. Zhang Dashuan angrily stopped him from continuing, Qiangzu. LIAN stopped his footstep. His pair of black eyes seemed to be burning as he stared fixatedly at Song Qiangzu while the surrounding air seemed to have cooled down. Yao Dashan was shocked and regretted it a bit. LIAN didn't seem like someone who should be provoked. He shouldn't have done it. In case he did offended LIAN, it was very possible that he would end up shot with an arrow. Song Qiangzu felt a chill on his back but he didn't want to lose face in front of others, so with a sneer he raised his head as he spoke. What? If you dare to marry a man as a wife, I would dare to say as much. LIAN restrained the cold light in his eyes, turned around and said to Zhang Dashan in a low voice, Zhang Xiang, I'll go on first. All right, all right. Zhang Dawan immediately nodded in fear that another dispute might arouse between these men. As soon as the view of LIAN's back was lost within the shadow of the Green Mountain, Song Qiangzu said apprehensively, I thought he would do something to me. Zhang Dashuan and Yao Dashan looked at each other and inwardly shook their heads. If you're afraid, why did you say such things in front of LIAN? Zhang Dashuan gestured with his hand, go, go, and moved forward. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Qin Mian naturally didn't know what happened to his cheap husband and was sleeping soundly under the covers. It was unknown how long it took for the door of the thatched room to be slammed open. Why Lang's wife, why aren't you up yet? Have you lived with the pigs long enough that you turned into a pig, yourself? Qin Mian suddenly sat up and looked at Du Shi coldly. This old hag really didn't take propriety in consideration when she talked. She was not only cussing him with this, but also cussing her man's eldest son. What? Are you still not going to obey? Du Shi didn't care about him at all as her voice grew even louder, get up quickly. Qin Mian took a deep breath and smiled at her. Mother, I was about to get up. You've worked hard, I'll make breakfast today. Du Shi's face eased a bit. Hurry up. After Qin Mian dressed, he went out. The sky had yet to brighten and looked like it's only 6 o'clock in the morning at most. He simply washed his face before he went into the kitchen and looked around. There were some sweet potatoes, some autumn eggplants, some green peppers, 3 potatoes and 2 eggs in the bamboo basket. Du Shi followed in. Just fry the vegetables in the basket for breakfast. I've scooped up the brown rice. When the rice is cooking, steam the 2 eggs on it. After that, she did not leave but looked from the door. I understand. Qin Mian knew that she was afraid of him cooking too much rice. Then he treated her as if she didn't exist and swiftly lighted the fire and cooked the rice first. The farmstead families all done hard works, so they didn't eat the kind of soup or liquid as breakfast like the city people did and instead ate staple food like in lunch and dinner. Otherwise, they would get hungry easily. When Du Shi saw that he did not secretly add rice from the rice jar, she left feeling at ease. As the rice was boiling, Qin Mian washed and cut the vegetables. After the rice was cooked, he put the brown rice with sweet potatoes in a basin and put it on the hot water of the innermost wok to keep them warm, and then washed the other wok to fry the vegetables. Qianqi probably had nothing to do as it was such a rarity for her to come in to help him and added firewood. Qin Mian found exactly what he had been looking for. When the wok was dried up on fire, he scooped out a large spoon of oil and poured it in. The oil smelled delicious. Qianqi was too late to stop him. Eldest sister-in-law, you put too much. If mother-in-law knew, she would definitely scold you. Qin Mian calmly said, eggplants consume oil. If it's fry with more oil, it will be more delicious. Qianqi didn't really care because it wasn't her who would get scolded anyways. She smiled and praised, it's really fragrant. Eldest sister-in-law, you are bold. If you are the one who cooks in the future, it will be good. Qin Mian gave a faint non-committal smile. Just like that, Qin Mian fried 2 plates of eggplant, 2 plates of potato shreds and 2 plates of green pepper. As soon as the vegetables were fried, he quickly slipped out. He had yet to walk far when he heard Du Shi's loud scolding, but it went into the left ear and went out of the right ear. He walked slowly along the way out of the village. When he saw a tall figure coming neither too fast nor too slow from afar, he waved quickly. There stood his amulet. When LIAN looked at the small and thin figure in the distance, he felt a strange feeling in his heart and unconsciously accelerated his pace. For the first time, someone was waiting for him to come back. When he got closer, he couldn't hear anything unusual in his voice. What's the matter? It's nothing. I've just finished preparing meal and mother thinks I put too much oil in it. Qin Mian told the story frankly and did not deny that it was intentional. LIAN nodded, I'll make more money so you can put as much oil as you want when you're cooking. Qin Mian's face felt a little hot, so he changed the topic. Was the prey sold? How much did you get? LIAN answered, 3 tael and 2 diao. /Note, tael is a unit of measure which is about 50 to 30 grams depending on the region. Qin Mian gave an O. He knew that 1 tael of gold here was equal to 10 taels of silver, 1 tael of silver was equal to 10 diao coins and 1 diao was equal to 100 wen. But he didn't know exactly the value of 1 wen and how many things it could buy, so he didn't know whether 3 tael and 2 diao were more or less. When they got home, the meal was just served. As soon as Du Shi saw Qin Mian, she was about to scold him, but LIAN called out mother, before he led Qin Mian to pass over her to sit down at the table. Du Shi remembered that LIAN got the money, so she held back her anger and let Qin Mian go for a while. She said gently, Wai Lang is back. How is the market price today? Enough to buy 2 sets of clothes for me and Xiao Mian. Qin Mian disregarded Du Shi. He took his bowl and picked eggplants and shredded potatoes in it. Although there were all vegetables, it's a lot better than Du Shi's fried vegetables. Lei Daqiang, Lei Xiangren and the others were all eating with relish, mouths full of grease. Seeing that the vegetables in the dishes become shallower and shallower, Qin Mian quickly took some and put it into LIAN's bowl. LIAN glanced at him and Qin Mian returned the look with a smile. Du Shi was not satisfied with LIAN's answer and asked, there must be 2 or 3 taels, no. 1 tael and 200 wen. After that, Lai Tie talked no more and lowered his head to eat. He didn't hand over any amount to her, and Du Shi's heart began to feel uncomfortable again. Just as she was about to open her mouth, Lei Xiongren's cry came out from the kitchen, "Why is there no rice left?" Lei Xiongji replied, "Haven't you eaten 2 bowls already?" Du Shi returned to her senses and looked at the table. There was only a little soup left on the bottom of the 3 dishes, and there were only a few vegetables in her bowl. Needless to say, it was Lei Chuntao who gave it to her. All of a sudden, a burst of anger and smothered breath came out of her chest at the same time and rushed to her brain. She picked up her chopsticks and dropped it to the ground, shouting to Zhao Shi and Qian Shi, "Eating as if you were scoundrels, were you just released from the prison? Even dogs don't eat as desperate as you all." Qian Shi quickly emptied the rice in the bowl without uttering any sound. Zhao Shi murmured to herself unwillingly, "Younger sister-in-law also ate. Second sister-in-law." Lei Chuntao blushed and glared at Zhao Shi. Du Shi's anger made her stagger. "Enough! One cannot even have a meal in peace here." Lei Daqiang slapped his hand on the table. Who knew why, but his face was a little red. Du Shi sat down heavily and her eyes shifted to Qin Mian. They were indignantly resentful and cold, as if she was looking at an enemy. Qin Mian hid behind Lai Tie and continued to eat. Du Shi looked at Lai Tie, who was blocking her sight. "Wai Lang, are you going to town tomorrow? Buy 2 jin of oil." Lai Tie answered, "No, I have something to do." After the meal, Qin Mian took the initiative to say, "Mother, I'll go chop firewood." Du Shi said immediately, "No need for you to go. You can't even chop 2 jin of firewood in a day. Lang's wife and San Lang's wife will go to chop firewood, Wai Lang's wife, go wash the dishes and do the laundry." Qin Mian secretly congratulated himself. It was only when he saw a large pile of clothes piled by the well that he knew he had underestimated Du Shi. Did Du Shi even take out the clean clothes? "Wife, follow me to mow the grass." Lai Tie came, took Qin Mian and left. Qin Mian reckoned that his wish to separate and live apart had been determined. Therefore, he didn't have to listen to Du Shi. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 12. Divide up family property and live apart, Part 4. Qin Mian and Lai Tie went out with a sickle, and it just so happened that the neighbors in the east came out of their yard at the same time as them. Their gazes couldn't help but cross against each other inadvertently. Qin Mian was very embarrassed and admired the good temper of that family. Du Shi nagged so much every day that half the people in the village could hear her. The neighbors were the ones who suffered the most. It was a wonder that they haven't gotten any complaints yet. Going out, ah! The older man was all smiles as he spoke. He looked very gentle and there was no contempt in his eyes. Qin Mian nodded with a smile, "Uncle, good morning. We're going to mow grass." Note, uncle was a polite way to address an elder man which one may or may not be related to. The older man chuckled and said, "What uncle? Call me eldest Uncle Zhang." Eldest Uncle Zhang. Qin Mian readily followed good advice. He guessed that this man's seniority in the family was high. There were many people in the countryside who were related to each other, and this was how their seniorities were ranked. "We'll be on our way." With his hands on his back, eldest Uncle Zhang wandered in another direction. Qin Mian followed Lai Tie all the way to the foot of the mountain and went onwards. "Are we going into the mountain?" Qin Mian asked. Lai Tie nodded. The two of them went around twists and turns in the woods as they climbed up the mountain for about more than 10 minutes before they stopped. "Stay here." Lai Tie bent to cut couch grass. He grabbed a handful of couch grass with his big palm, put the sickle in his right hand to the root of the couch grass as he pulled the couch grass towards him and easily cut off a handful before he put it down on the ground and cut the second batch. Qin Mian found out Lai Tie brought only one sickle. Though he was willing to help, he had no tool to use. So he wanted to walk around to see if he could pick some wild vegetables or find some wild fruits. Don't walk around. There are snakes here, said LIAN. Mian had to stand in place obediently. There was a stone not far away and he moved to sit down there as he watched LIAN cut bundle after bundle and then moved them all into a small mound cavity that was not easy to find. Several bundles of couch grass had been stored in that small mound. Mian didn't understand and thus asked, "What are we going to put here?" LIAN answered, "We'll build the house here." Mian was suddenly enlightened. It turned out that LIAN wasn't cutting the couch grasses here for the Lei family but to build their house. It seemed that he had started the plan to separate from the Lei family. Mian said, "In the afternoon, I will help you with cutting grasses." LIAN didn't speak. Mian regarded it as his consent. When it was time to return home, LIAN picked only 2 bundles of couch grass to go back to show that they had completed the task. The dried grass was being used as fire kindling. In the afternoon, Mian brought cloth towels and went up the mountain with LIAN. When he cut grass, he wrapped his hands in cloth towels. It's not due to pettiness but he was young and his skin was tender which could easily be cut by the grass. In this backward ancient era, there were lack of medicine for treatments and so, it was safer to have less injury. In the evening, they returned home. Sitting in the yard was a young and graceful young lad dressed in a clean and neat white long robes. He was bent down reading a book. Mian immediately guessed who this person was. It's Lei Xiongji, the youngest son of the Lei family. Lei Xiongji was the only person in Lei family who was unlike a farmer's child aside from LIAN. He was also the only one who wore white robes. At the sound of footsteps, Lei Xiongji raised his head before he stood up and smiled at Mian and LIAN, even bowing. His scholar's temperament was completely displayed. He said in refined and courteous manner, "Degur, elder sister-in-law." LIAN replied lightly, "Wu Lang." Note, Wu Lang referred to the 5th son in the family. Mian only smiled and nodded to Lei Xiongji, not calling out Wu Lang. He hadn't fully accepted his identity as the Lei family's eldest daughter-in-law in his heart and currently he was 1 year younger than Lei Xiongji so it was awkward to address him as a younger brother. When Du Shi came out of the hall with a basin, she unexpectedly didn't scold Mian when she saw him but only glanced at him lightly before she rushed into the kitchen. Thus, it could be seen that Du Shi minded herself in front of Lei Xiongji. Sure enough, Du Shi didn't scold anyone until dinner. At the dinner table, she was even inquiring about Lei Xiongji's well-being and also even specifically asked Zhao Shi to buy a fish from the fish vendor place at the top of the village for when she made breakfast the next day. These had nothing to do with Mian. After eating, he went to bed. Because when he woke up, they could talk about family separation and living apart. The next day, after breakfast, Zhao Shi and Qian Shi got up to clear the tables under Du Shi's urging. Lei Daqiang was also ready to go out to work. LIAN began, "Father, sit down. I have something to say." Lei Daqiang sat back down and asked casually, "What is it?" LIAN stated without mincing words, "I want to separate and move out." Everyone was stunned. Nobody expected that LIAN would say such a sentence so suddenly because there was no sign at all. Zhao Shi and Qian Shi, who had already held the chopsticks in their hands, turned pale at the same time. They put the plates back on the table and sat back where they once were. Zhao Shi inwardly frowned. She didn't want to let LIAN go. If LIAN left, the family would have less labor force and her husband would have to work more. Qian Shi supported for LIAN to move out. It's really awkward with the 2 men being together. In addition, because the family's money was in Du Shi's hands, whether LIAN moved out or not had no substantial impact on her interests. Du Shi quarreled with Mian every day. For the sake of peace in the household, she hoped LIAN and Mian would move out. In fact, she also wanted to be moved out. Since they were staying under the Lei family's roof, when the brothers went out to do some odd jobs or the women earned money from selling embroidered handkerchiefs or so lu sui, all the earnings had to be handed to Du Shi, to the extent that Jian could only have very little money in her hands and could not even buy some delicious snacks for Xingxin. That old hag Du Shi only had her youngest son, her only daughter and 2 grandsons in her eyes, and didn't care about Xingxin at all. But she also knew that it was impossible for Lei Xiangji to move out by his own unless their old father will it of his own volition. Note: Lu Sui is a Chinese knot used to fasten clothes by tying the knot together. It was also used as decoration on the hair, waist, curtain, and the likes. Lei Xiangren, Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, Lei Xiangji, and Lei Chuntao all had different outlooks about this. Lei Xiangren and Lei Xiangji also wanted to separate and live apart. Who didn't want to be in charge of their own money? Lei Xiangji didn't have a son. Every time he saw his mother put delicious food in the bowls of Dabao and Xiaobao and then he saw the look in Xingxin's eyes, he felt frustrated. If he had money, he would buy whatever his daughter wants. Lei Xiangli and Lei Xiangji both knew that their parents would not agree to separate the family, but they listened quietly. Lei Chuntao supported Lei Tie's decision from the bottom of her heart. When Lei Tie left home, she was only 5 years old and she had yet to form an impression of how Lei Tie was back then. When Lei Tie came back, he was very good to her and also gifted her with a hairpin worth at least 4 taels. However, her mother tried various ways to take advantage of Dagur and even arranged that thatched cottage opposite the pigsty, which made her feel sorry for him and ashamed. Whenever she walked around the village, she couldn't help but lower her head in embarrassment. It's a good thing if Dagur could really separate and live apart. Although Du Shi loved her, she was the daughter and had no right to speak at home. She could only restrain her excitement and wait for her parents to make a statement. Without waiting for Lei Daqiang to speak, Du Shi immediately put on a negative attitude and said coldly, "Wai Lang, what are you talking about? Your father and I are not dead yet." End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 13. Finally divide up family property and live separately. Lei Daqiang then said, "Wai Lang, I disagree. Why don't you think about it some more? If you really move out, where will you live? In the woods? Let's not talk about this anymore." With that, he moved to get up to leave. Lei Tie looked into his eyes and said lightly, 10 years ago, I left, how come 10 years after I couldn't leave anymore?" Lei Daqiang's facial expression changed a lot and his hands that were hanging on his side trembled slightly. "You! Wai Lang!" Du Shi was unable to contain her anger. "How dare you defy your father? How unfilial!" Lei Tie looked at her and said, "How am I unfilial when I didn't fight back when I was beaten black and blue by you? How am I unfilial when I didn't object when you make me live across the pigsty? How am I unfilial when just because of a word from the fortune teller, you made me marry a man?" He looked at Lei Daqiang again and asked plainly still, "I've been wanting to ask for a long time, am I not your son?" Even Qin Mian, who was an outsider, couldn't help but felt heartache and sympathetic towards Lei Tie when he heard these words. Lei Daqiang opened his mouth but didn't speak. He couldn't dare to look Lei Tie in his eyes. Lei Chuntao's eyes were red and she couldn't help crying out, "Father! Mother! Just agree to it. Dagur doesn't owe us anything." Du Shi raged, "You shut up! How can you favor someone else instead of your own mother?" Lei Xiangji sighed silently and spoke with a gentle voice, "Father, let Dagur move out. We're still a family even if he's separated." That was to say that the relationship of Lei Xiangji, Lei Xiangli, and Lei Xiangji with Lei Tie was cordial, with Lei Xiangren being an exception. The main reason for this was because he was Du Shi's eldest son. When he was very young, Du Shi's attitude towards him and Lei Tie was vastly different, and Du Shi's attitude towards Lei Tie affected him to some extent, so he didn't like Lei Tie at all. Due to this, he was in agreement to let Lei Tie move out. As for Lei Xiangji, who was only 5 years old at that time, what could he understand then? Later on, he studied and understood the principle of showing love and respect as good brothers should. Although his relationship with Lei Tie could not be regarded as deep, he was not willing to bully or insult him. Wu Lang. Du Shi looked at Lei Xiangji incredulously, but could not say a word to him. Lei Daqiang fell into his chair feebly. Fine. If you want to move out, then move out. Lao Lei. Du Shi glared at him. Note, Lao means old, thus Lao Lei means old Lei / Lei Daqiang ignored her. Lei Daqiang had made up his mind, so Du Shi had no choice but to just say, if you want to move out, you can, but you cannot take anything within the house. Lei Xiangji and Lei Chuntao frowned. Lei Tie only looked at Lei Daqiang. Lei Daqiang sighed and said, Wai Lang, you know the situation at home. There is really nothing extra in the house that can be shared with you. If you are in a hurry to move out, your brothers and I will help you build a thatched cottage to live in first. The farmlands are all we have, but when Si Lang and Wu Lang get married, there would be more people in the family, so we can only give you 1 mu of paddy field and 1 mu of dry farmland. As for money. Note, mu is a unit of measure which is about 1/15 of a hectare. Zhao Shi, Qian Shi, Lei Xiangren, and Lei Xianji all perked up their ears. Du Shi interrupted Lei Daqiang and said expressionlessly, Are you confused, old man? There is no money at home. Lei Daqiang continued, You gave me 20 silver taels when you came back, and I spent some money during this period of time. There are still 10 taels left. I will give you 2 taels. Qin Mian sneered in his heart. That morning when Zhao Shi bought fish, Du Shi asked her how much it cost. He heard Zhao Shi's reply clearly, 11 wen. That fish was about 2 jin, which was about 5 wen per jin. Therefore, 20 silver taels were not a small amount. He and Lei Tie did not throw a ceremony during their wedding, and nothing else happened in Lei family in more than a month, so where was the 10 silver taels spent? In particular, Du Shi was such a proverbial miser that he did not believe that the Lei family had no savings at all. Even at this time, Lei Daqiang was still calculating towards his own son. Qin Mian couldn't pat Lei Tie on the shoulder in front of everyone, so he could only quietly pat Lei Tie on the leg under the table to comfort him. Lei Tie's face was as usual, his mood was unreadable. Lei Daqiang wiped his face, seemingly wanted to wipe away the embarrassment on his face. As for the household tools and such, there is no extra. We have 2 pigs. One is originally going to be slaughter for the Lunar New Year. I'll give you some in due course. What do you think? Lei Tie asked, Where will the house build? Lei Daqiang faltered out a few words, There is no extra land at home, and there is really no spare money to buy land for you. Du Shi laughed out a sound and said slowly, Wai Lang, when you came back, you gave 20 silver taels all at once. I don't believe that you didn't keep any to yourself at all. I bet Dagur is regretting giving that 20 silver taels to father now. Lei Chuntao was so ashamed that she almost wanted to hide under the table. Lei Xiangji's face also felt hot as he frowned at Du Shi. Mother, please don't say anything anymore. Lei Tie stood up and said, I'll go invite the village chief over. Lei Xiangji promptly said, Da Ji, I'll go. Lei Tie nodded. Thank you. After Lei Xiangji went to invite the village chief, no one in the hall room spoke. The 3 children had been rushed to play out of the room beforehand. Silence was like a dark cloud over the heads of these people, and the atmosphere in the hall room was very oppressive. Of all the people there, only Lei Tie and Qin Mian were calm. Lei Tie's eyes were flat and calm, as no one could discern any trace of emotion in them. Qin Mian restrained his excitement and happiness by looking at the door from time to time without expression. Very soon, Lei Xiangji brought in the village chief with him. The peasant families basically dressed in working robes, which was convenient to do farm work, but the village chief wore grey changbao inside with a thin black cotton-breasted jacket outside. The cotton-breasted jacket was embroidered with the noble character Fu with gold thread. He was pacing with measured gait as he walked steadily. He looked to be in his early 50s but was hale and hearty as his eyes twinkled with shrewd light. Note: Fu character represents blessing, happiness, good luck or good fortune. Lei Daqiang and the others got up to greet him. We have troubled the village chief to come here. Lei Daqiang said politely with an apologetic face. Lei Tie cupped his hands in salute towards the village chief. The village chief nodded and glanced at the people in the hall room. His eyes lingered on Lei Tie for a while before he said, Lei Xiong speaks so seriously, it's merely a very slight effort and nothing more. As for how to divide the family property, if you have already discussed it, I will just write down the details. Lei Xiongji went to his room and brought out the scholar's 4 treasures. Lei Chuntao was smart and she quickly tidied up the table. Note: the scholar's 4 treasures are the writing brush, ink stick, ink slab and paper slash. Sorry to oblige the village chief. This way, please. Lei Tie raised his hand and led the village chief to the table. The village chief nodded to himself secretly. Although the eldest of Lei family had an intimidating appearance, he acted steadily and knew etiquette. He was much better than any people in general. But unfortunately, Lei Daqiang felt slightly uncomfortable but he didn't know why. It was actually due to the fact that his sense of existence was weak though he himself didn't realize it. He walked over a few steps, sat down next to the village chief and coughed before saying, Village chief, we have discussed the details of the division. I'll say it and have to trouble you to note it down. After discussion, it was decided to give Lei Tie a mu of paddy field, which is located in, 1 mu of dry land, which is located in. Qin Mian leaned over to see that the characters here were in traditional Chinese characters. He could basically understand them. Meanwhile the village chief was writing on the paper. On this day, Lei Tie, the eldest son of Lei Daqiang, has come of age and peacefully divides family property to live apart, and Lei Daqiang, the head of the family, gives Lei Tie. Qin Mian nodded. Since it was a document of family properties division, it should clearly state the identity of both parties, just like Party A and Party B in the modern contract, in case of future disputes. The village chief was listening to Lei Daqiang and he couldn't help shaking his head. Lei Daqiang was obviously not treating his eldest son fairly. All of them lived in the same village. Who didn't know that there were 12 mu of paddy field and 8 mu of dry field owned by the Lei family? Even if the brothers got equal shares, Lei Tie should not only get a share of 2 mu of field. Besides, Lei Tie had no plot to build a house on. It could even be said that he was leaving while bringing basically nothing with him. However, since both sides were in agreement, he had no right to intervene. Seeing that Lei Tie had no objections so far, he continued to write it down. After Lei Daqiang finished speaking, he thought it over to ensure he was not missing anything before he said, That's all. Standing beside Lei Daqiang, Du Shi hurriedly said, Also, since we haven't split the family yet, shouldn't the money of Wei Lang's family be handed over to and then just give him a part of it? Mother! Lei Xiongji blushed in embarrassment. Let alone that Dagur doesn't have money at all now, even if there is, it's his own. It's none of your business. Du Shi glared at him and pushed Lei Daqiang, Lao Lei. Lei Daqiang felt that everyone's eyes were stabbing him. He said, What Wu Lang said is right. When it comes to family separation, the men decide and you women should shut up. He gave Du Shi an angry look. Seeing that Lei Daqiang was angry now, Du Shi grew apprehensive and didn't say anything more. Lei Tie was not affected by them for even a bit as he said in a low voice, Please add in a sentence, from today until 2 months later, our pair of husbands can pick vegetables in the vegetable field. Du Shi's eyes bulged out and her mouth was agape, wanting to speak. The village chief saw her but acted as if he did not notice. He nodded and said, Yes. You two aren't given a share to the vegetable field. It's fine to pick some vegetables in the vegetable field. He smiled at Lei Daqiang. If Lei Daqiang couldn't even accept this, he should stay away from such a person in the future. Lei Daqiang's face felt hot and he nodded repeatedly, naturally, naturally. I'm already old with my memory going bad. I may have forgotten to say that just now. What else is there to add? The village chief's words seemed to ask both sides, but his eyes were looking at Lei Tie. Qin Mian pulled at Lei Tie's arm and said, separated from the family but still close relatives, however it should be two different households. Tie Gurgur, I think we should add that both parties are not allowed to interfere in each other's family affairs, including housework and finances. What do you think? Lei Tie nodded and remembered the word Tie Gurgur in his heart. Du Shi immediately screamed, Wai Lang, don't think you won't be responsible for your brothers and sister if you separate from the family. You have to contribute for the marriage of Si Lang, Wu Lang, and your youngest sister. Also, you have to pay for Wu Lang's studies. Otherwise, I won't agree with the separation. Lei Tie said, whether it's Si Lang, Wu Lang, or Mei Mei who gets married, if father gives 5 silver taels, I will give 1 tael. It's only fair since your family has more labor forces and my family has less. Father, don't you think that makes sense? Qin Mian laughed in his heart. Lei Daqiang could only nod. Du Shi wanted to open her mouth again but was stopped by Lei Xiangji. The village chief wrote it down again. Lei Tie spoke again, every month, our pair of husbands will provide 100 wen for the elderly expenses. But I'm afraid that I can't during these 2 to 3 months because I'm short of money. Du Shi's heart felt a little more comfortable. She would get 100 wen a month, which was more than 1 silver tael a year. The village chief nodded approvingly. Seeing that Lei Tie spoke in an orderly way and considering all aspects of the situations, it was obvious that there was a long-term plan. Lei Tie is filial. I'll provide 100 wen monthly in the paperwork. I don't need to write the last sentence, do I? Lei Daqiang's heart felt perplexed and he hurriedly said, the last sentence doesn't need to be written, doesn't need to be written. Paying little by little is fine. After that, the village chief read the document completely at a slower pace. Lei Tie nodded without objection. Lei Daqiang didn't have any education, so his reaction was a little slow. After a while, he said, all seems to be in order. The documents were written in 3 copies with each party keeping 1 copy. Lei Tie, Lei Daqiang, and the village chief all pressed their fingerprints on the documents, and with this, the household separation was completed. With the matter finished, Lei Tie sent the village chief to the entrance gate for nearly half a li, many thanks to the village chief. Someday, this Lei Tie will visit to express thanks. Note, li is a unit of measure which is approximately 500 meters. At the side, Qin Mian smiled and said thank you, to the village chief as well. Go back and live a good life. The village chief had nothing else to say and he left with his hands clasped behind his back and shook his head as he walked. Qin Mian looked at the bright sunshine on top of his head and couldn't help smiling. He asked briskly, when will we move away? Lei Tie answered, today. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 14. Rent a house. Qin Mian asked worriedly, can we build a thatched house in a day? Lei Tie responded, autumn harvest is coming, we'll rent first. Qin Mian patted his head, I forgot the autumn harvest. Although they were only 2 people, they would have to at least build a 2-rooms abode which couldn't be completed in a day or 2. All the wood and couch grass needed to build the house must be prepared. There was too much work to do for only 2 people to deal with. They would have to ask help from others who they would have to treat with meals, and they would have to prepare the ingredients for those meals. All of these took time. During autumn harvest, everyone would be busy to rush the harvesting and planting, so there wouldn't be enough people to work on 2 fronts. Therefore, the construction of their house could only be postponed for the meanwhile. How can we rent a house? Qin Mian was worried. LIAN didn't like to talk and hadn't been in the village for a long time, so his relationship with the villagers was not too deep. LIAN nodded and beckoned him to follow. Everyone woke up early, so the village was very lively during the day. The chickens in the yard laid eggs and went cluck cluck, as if asking for credits from their owners. A flock of fat ducks quacked and swayed to the pond. Occasionally, there were loud voices of adults scolding naughty children and waking up babies crying. Farther away, the ox herd shouted to the ox to quickly move. At the top of the trees, birds were chirping spiritedly. One could only guess what sort of communication they were having with each other. A few villagers chatted under a tree and laughed from time to time. When Mian and LIAN approached, they stopped talking and laughing. The villagers looked at them with complicated gazes and turned their heads when their eyes were about to make contact. Then silence would ensue. Mian's mental fortitude was very strong and acted as if he didn't notice things when he walked over calmly. LIAN was silent like a mountain and only marched on with steady steps. The villagers began to talk in low voices when they passed them by with a little distance. Sigh, do you guys think they are really going to live together in the future? No way, right? Can two men really be married? Keep it down. Speaking of which, the LIAN's eldest son is also very pitiful. He married a male wife just because of a word of fortune-telling. Oh, he was so wronged. Who made him have a stepmother? LIAN can't manage his family. I heard Du Xi addressed LIAN as the eldest several times. She really didn't care about LIAN at all. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. They went to middle of the village and stopped at a tall courtyard gate. The gate was thick and imposing, with smooth reliefs engraved on it. Although it wasn't the finest and couldn't be compared with that of a rich and influential family's house, the gate was much better than that of a common villager's house. It could be seen that this family would be considered as a wealthy household in the village. There was a tall persimmon tree in the yard that stretched out a branch from inside. The persimmons were full like small lanterns and some of them had already turned yellow. LIAN lightly tapped the door knocker and a rough voice transmitted out from inside, "Coming." The gate was opened. A middle-aged man with a pot-belly and a stout body had opened the gate. He was a bit surprised before he smiled very politely and said, "If it isn't the LIAN's eldest son? Come in. Senior Zhao." Mian followed after, "Senior Zhao, please excuse us." Zhao Wenzhong invited the two to come into the house and to take a seat as he wondered what the two sought him for. Their two families had nothing to do with each other aside from he and LIAN exchanged greetings when LIAN had just returned back to the village. Zhao Wenzhong's wife was at home, sitting at the window mending clothes. Next to the window, she listened to the people talking outside and was also curious about the two people's purpose in coming to their residence. Standing in the courtyard, LIAN said, "Senior Zhao need not be polite. The two of us venture to bother Senior Zhao because we want to rent Senior Zhao's old house at the back of the village." Mian was afraid that his lack of words would make Zhao Wenzhong misunderstand them, and so he added, "It's like this, Senior Zhao. Tai Gerger and I have separated from our parents, but the autumn harvest is soon at hand. It's too late to build a house at this time, so we want to rent your old house for a while. I heard that Senior Zhao is usually generous, so we dare to ask for your kind consideration." LIAN said, 2 months at most." The eyes of Zhao Wenzhong's wife flashed as her gossip-monger blood boiled. The LIAN family split? This is big news and first-hand news at that. She couldn't stay still for a moment. So it's like that. Zhao Wenzhong was indeed generous. It may not be convenient for you to stay there temporarily. You probably know that no one had been maintaining that house for a long time, so I'm afraid that it may not be livable. That house was given to him when their Zhou family split. Later, he made a small fortune and built another house. Therefore, that old house stood empty and he didn't bother to take care of it." LIAN said, "As long as it can shelter us from the wind and rain, it will suffice." Zhao Wenzhong nodded, "Then, you can move in if you don't mind that." "Thank you." LIAN took out a silver coin from his bosom, which was equivalent to 500 to 600 yuan. This is the rent for 2 months. 500 to 600 yuan was quite a lot. It was enough to pay for meals of an average family for 2 to 3 months. Zhao Wenzhong waved his hand away. We're all from the same village, you don't need to pay rent. Zhao Wenzhong's wife emerged from behind him, took the silver coin in LIAN's hand and smiled enthusiastically at LIAN and Qin Mian before she glanced at Zhao Wenzhong angrily. Lao Zhao, can they live in peace if you don't accept it? Don't you agree, Mrs. LIAN? Here, this is the key to the old house. Qin Mian smiled as he nodded. Auntie's right, you have to accept it. We're deeply grateful for you both for letting us live there. If you don't accept the rent, we'll feel uneasy. Zhao Wenzhong had no choice but to glare at his wife as he was forced to say, in this case, we will accept it. I remember that there are some old desks and chairs in the house. You can use them freely. Many thanks. Seeing Qin Mian and LIAN leave the gate, Zhao Wenzhong's wife stared coldly at Zhao Wenzhong. How rich are you, ah? Easily saying no to 500 to 600 yuan. What do you womenfolk know? Go go go. Zhao Wenzhong didn't bother to talk nonsense with her and turned to enter the house. I don't understand but you do. I don't want to talk to you. Zhao Wenzhong's wife murmured, and when she thought of the big news she had just heard, a smile emerged from her lips. She went back into the house, took the sewing basket and went out to find someone to chat with. End chapter. Minwei Qinan. Chapter 15. Settle in. An old house stood alone behind the village. The houses in the village were basically connected to each other, but only this one was standing all on its own, separated by about 10 meters from the nearest house. There was also a pond in front of the house. The Zhao family used to raise fish in this pond, so they built the house beside it. The water in the pond reflected dark green as there were several trees around its bank. Noticing that the roof of the house was tiled, Qin Mian was immediately elated and quickened his pace. LIAN's eyes followed him all this while. Was it this easy to satisfy him? Hurry up! Qin Mian hurried and ran to the house. A mouse in the grass was frightened and quickly shrank back to disappear from their sight. The lock on the door had been battered by the wind and rain for a long time, so it was rusted. It took Qin Mian a while to open it. Pushing the door open, a burst of dust assaulted him. He sneezed a few times and hurriedly stepped back. Cough, cough. Sunlight shone obliquely into the door and one could see the dense dust floating in the air. Inside, there was an old table with its skin peeled off and 3 high-backed chairs covered with a thick layer of ash. Dense spider webs stretched from the table and chairs all the way to the beam of the roof. There was not even a single clean patch for a person to stand on. Qin Mian was satisfied. This house was old, but it would be many times better than that thatched cottage once it was all cleaned up. There was a small bamboo forest beside the house, the green bamboo leaves rustled along the wind. He got an idea and mentioned it to LIAN. You go back and get our things, I'll clean the house. LIAN stood beside him, glanced inside and asked in a low voice, can you do it on your own? Why can't I? Quick, you go. The sooner things are sorted out, then we can live here from today. There was a worn-out kitchen knife full of yellow rust in the corner of the wall. Qin Mian picked it up to cut the bamboo. LIAN took out the table and chairs inside before he turned around and left. Walking out a few steps, he came back again and took off his overall before throwing it to Qin Mian. Then, without saying another word, he left. A flying object covered Qin Mian's head. Unable to make head or tail of it, he pulled off the overall and conveniently hung it on a small tree. Then, he continued to cut the bamboo. When he used to live in the countryside with his grandparents, they would have a huge general cleaning before the New Year's Eve. They would cut some bamboos and tied them together to make a long stick and attached it to the feather duster to make it easy to clean the dust on the beams and high walls of the house. He was not that unaccustomed to these sort of works. The blunt knife was not making things easy though. Mian had to hack about 20 times before he cut off a bamboo. He broke some of the leaves below to reduce the weight of the bamboo pole. He took it to the house and began to clean the spider web and dust on the beam. Just after sweeping, the dust fell on his face and he spat out a few times. All of a sudden, he realized that LIAN was very attentive. He went outside and took LIAN's overall to cover his head and mouth before he continued to clean. All of a sudden, dust and dead leaves were flying in the house, as if a sandstorm had struck inside. The window papers were already broken that it didn't make any difference whether the windows were opened or not. There were 3 rooms in the house. As he was cleaning the house, LIAN came back with a big chest, followed after by Lei Xiongli, Lei Xiongji, and Lei Chuntao. They all held things in their arms. Lei Xiongli was holding a bundle of firewood, which he could guess he secretly took from their house. Meanwhile, Lei Xiongji was holding a slightly smaller wooden chest. Lei Chuntao put down the basin in her hand and walked over. She was a little shy as she offered, "I'll help you, eldest sister-in-law." How could Mian let the young maiden do the work? He hastily said, "No need, it's dusty. Don't dirty your clothes." Lei Chuntao thought that she couldn't hold the bamboo pole and didn't insist. "Then, I will help you clean the table and chairs after the dust have been cleaned up." LIAN and Lei Xiongli went back to move the rest of things, while Lei Xiongji took the worn-out kitchen knife to cut bamboos and helped to sweep the dust. The second time LIAN came back, he borrowed a wooden ladder from the village. Lei Xiongli, Lei Xiongji, and Lei Chuntao all felt awkward. They were too embarrassed to say anything, so they all worked in silence. Mian was wholeheartedly thinking to move in as soon as possible and was not in the mood to chat. After the cleaning, LIAN climbed to the roof and rearranged the tiles that had been moved because of the cleaning inside to ensure that they would not leak during rainy days. After that, they swept the floor, cleaned the table and chairs, and wiped the windows. They had been busy for more than 2 hours before the house was cleaned and looked much more comfortable. Lei Xiongji's eyes fell on the broken window papers swaying along the wind. "Degur, I have some unused paper. I'll go back and get it for you to fix the windows." "Degur, Chuntao and I are also going back," said Lei Xiongli. LIAN nodded. Mian felt somewhat helpless. He saw LIAN being quite shrewd before, so why couldn't he act appropriately this time? Mian was then forced to say it. "Thank you all for your help today. It's too late for lunch. In the evening, your Degur and I will to invite you all to dinner if it's convenient." He wasn't sure if it was convenient or not, as he was afraid that they would have to ask Dushi's permission. Lei Xiongji quickly declined, "It's not convenient for you and Degur now, so we won't bother you for dinner." LIAN insisted, "By that time, I'll call you all." Lei Xiongli and the rest had to agree. After they left, Mian began to count what they had: a wooden bed, a low table, 2 wooden chests, a bow set, a wok, a square table, 3 chairs, and a wooden basin. Other than those, there was practically nothing else. Fortunately, there was a room that was used as a kitchen and the stove was still there, so there was no need to build one. The sun was shining brightly, so the washed table and chairs dried quickly. They moved everything in and put them in order. There were 3 rooms, one for dining and entertaining guests, the other for kitchen and at the same time storing sundries. This meant that he and LIAN still had to share one room and even one bed. After finishing work, Mian heated a big wok of water, washed his hair and took a bath, changed to clean clothes before switching with LIAN to take a bath. Not far away was the pond where he easily washed their clothes, but without a clothesline, he hung them on a small tree in front of the house. Inside the house, LIAN was repairing the broken chair. Mrs. LIAN, Zhang Dashuan strode over with a bundle of firewood on his shoulder and a big smile on his face. "Zhang Xiang, aren't you busy?" Mian greeted. "What busy?" Zhang Dashuan set the firewood against the wall. I heard that you guys split up from the family. I supposed you guys lack everything, but I can't help much, so your Chunyuaji and I wants to give this bundle of firewood for you to use. End chapter.